Hello and welcome to the channel. In today's video we're going to be taking a look at my Warzone settings and why I use them. In addition to this, I've got a small story time at the end of this video about a nightmare I've been having with DualShock 4 controllers. So if you'd like to indulge in my suffering, make sure you stick around till the end. Before we get into the settings though, if you're feeling like an absolute legend, you can like and subscribe to the channel and it would help me out immensely. And with all that said and done, let's get into the settings. The first setting that we're going to be taking a look at is BR button layout. Right now I'm running tactical flipped. Since there's two parts to this setting, we'll cover tactical first. Why do I use tactical? Well, the main reason I use tactical is to slide around corners whilst maintaining my aim, in addition to repeatedly crouching and drop shotting in gunfights. Essentially, this just makes me a massive pain in the arse to kill during up close gunfights. So why use flipped? The real benefit of using flipped is that you're swapping your shooting triggers for L1 and R1. And the reason you want to do this is because they have a slightly shorter travel time than L2 and R2, which translates into you being able to shoot ever so slightly faster. And let's face it, in a game like Warzone, you want every little advantage you can get your hands on at this point. Stick layout preset, I leave that as default and I've never changed it. A very similar story for invert vertical look. This is disabled and I've never enabled it, and I don't actually know anyone who ever has. On to everyone's favourite setting, dead zone. I'll be completely honest, I often feel like there's a lot of confusion surrounding this setting. People seem to think it's some mystical setting that will fix all their problems and copy it straight from a pro player. However, the truth is, it'll just make your analog stick slightly more sensitive or less sensitive. So, how do you find the dead zone that's right for you? Well, I advise getting it as low as you possibly can without having any stick drift. Since I have a relatively new controller, I have mine set to 0.05. Horizontal stick sensitivity and vertical stick sensitivity. At present, both of these are set to 5. I know a lot of people like to have a much higher sensitivity than 5, but I feel like it impacts your aiming quite a bit. So I don't want to make the trade-off of being able to turn around ridiculously fast if I'm just going to whiff all my shots once I do turn around. ADS multiplier low zoom. Now I have mine at 1 because I don't personally feel I need an increase or decrease in sensitivity at a low zoom level. However, I find this to be a different story at high zoom. Personally, I have mine at 1.25 just to make it a little bit faster. I find that this helps me a lot with my sniping, which to be honest I'm not great at, so you might want to discount any advice on this setting. But there's something about having it a little bit faster for drag shots that just feels more natural to me. Aim response curve type. Now personally, I just think dynamic is better. I don't have a whole lot of justification for why, it just feels the best out of the selection. And if you haven't tried it before, I recommend going into a private match or a plunder and just giving it a go. Because I don't really feel like you've got anything to lose just trying it for half an hour. An absolute classic. Controller vibration. To be completely honest, I've had this disabled since Modern Warfare 2, which was 11 years ago. If you've still got this enabled, you're doing yourself a disservice and I recommend you disable it as soon as you can. Now, my aim assist is standard and I think there's a consensus across the board that standard is the best. So, I wouldn't advise changing this anytime soon. Weapon mount activation. Personally, I find double tapping ADS is a lot smoother than any of the other options available. So, once again, go into a private match, try it out for yourself, but don't be swayed by the setting that I've got in place. You need to have what's comfortable for you. Weapon mount movement exit. It's set to enabled, but I'm pretty sure this is just the default. For aim down sight and equipment behaviour, I have these both set to hold. The other option is really weird and I wouldn't recommend it. Now, a lot of these settings I've kind of advised that you need to find what's right for you. However, use/reload behaviour, I strongly advise using contextual tap. It makes looting up so much faster, it's actually stupid. So please, help me to help you loot faster by setting this to contextual tap. Depleted ammo weapon switch. I believe this is enabled by default, and I wouldn't advise disabling it. Armor plate behavior. Now, personally, I like to have it on apply all, because I don't find much joy in holding down triangle for that long, and if I only have to press it once, it means I can focus on moving out of the way instead of just focusing on holding down the button. And if you do get caught mid-plating, you can just cancel the animation with triangle anyway. Slide behavior. I have mine set to tap, and I would strongly advise if you do a lot of slide cancelling that you're going to want to set this to tap as well. Automatic sprint and automatic move forward, I have them both disabled. I know a lot of people are a huge fan of auto attack sprint, but I feel like it adds a strange delay when you're trying to go from sprinting to shooting. So I like to be in control of all of my movement, and that's why I have them disabled. Vehicle camera recenter. It's enabled by default and I've never changed it. Parachute auto deploy. Honestly, disabling this was one of the best things I've ever done in this game. It allows you to land so much faster. The only downside is if you're AFK when the plane's setting off, you're probably going to land to your death, which isn't ideal, but with great power comes great responsibility. So make sure you've got your water and been to the toilet before you start the match. So, for brightness I have mine set at 65. I think this is a great starting point, but adjust as you see fit. But please bear in mind there's certain points in the map where it's incredibly dark. When it comes to safe area, you're going to want your top, bottom, left and right borders to be pushed as far to the edge of the bezel of your TV or monitor as possible. You do this to make sure you can see as much of the game as possible. With film grain, you're going to want to set this straight to 0. There's already enough visibility problems in this game as it is without adding an extra layer of distortion. And as you can see, I've got tooltips enabled because who doesn't like tips? But to be honest, the reality is I've never disabled it because I've never noticed it do anything. Subtitles, I have these disabled. And to be honest, the reason they're disabled is because my screen real estate is far too important to have text covering anything. An essential setting now, language selection. Personally, I've gone for English because I can't understand any other language, and I would like to advise you, the viewer, to pick a language you can also understand, unless you're feeling very dangerous. So, I'm not actually colourblind, but I have a huge reason for using this setting, and that's the fact that this game looks so washed out and so visually unattractive that I've had to apply this setting just to make enemies appear more visible and the game not appear as dull. I strongly recommend you give this setting a try. And because I use this setting, obviously I apply it to both the menu and the game, otherwise there'd be no point in using it. World motion blur and weapon motion blur. If you have any love for yourself, you need to turn these off. Trust me. Minimap shape. Now, you might not think that this can do a lot, but setting it to square will actually give you more space on the screen for your minimap, which in turn makes it easier to find targets on the minimap when they're shooting or made visible by a UAV. Since we've already highlighted the importance of the minimap, you want to have rotation enabled. It just helps you get the most out of it if the minimap's moving when you're moving. Compass cardinal direction text. Now, they're words I never thought I'd be saying, but here we are. I have mine on letters. I just think it's easier for call-outs, but I can see numbers being just as good, so I'll leave this one up to you. Letters or numbers? You decide. Text chat. I have this enabled because why not? Profanity filter. An essential setting for me because when I'm playing Warzone, the last thing that I want to hear is a bunch of sweary marys. Dismemberment and gore effects. I don't actually remember turning this on, but if it's on, I'm probably going to leave it as it is. Audio mix. Now, in my opinion, there are only actually two viable options for this setting, that being boost high and boost low. If I have any of the others on, I don't feel like I can hear footsteps whatsoever. Master volume. I have this set to 35 because, to be quite honest with you, I don't want to go deaf, and I don't believe there's any advantage making it louder. Music volume. I currently have this set to 0 for one reason and one reason only, and that's because it doesn't help you at all. Dialogue volume. I have this set to 40, and I think it's important for one call out and one call out only, and that is enemy dropping into the AO. It's an anxiety inducing call out, but an essential one to listen out for. so I suggest you at least have dialogue volume at 40. Effect volume. This is one I strongly recommend having at 100. Any single important sound or effect is directly tied to effect volume. Everything from footsteps to gunfire. Everything that you need to listen out for is here. So put this at 100 and get ready to get back to being paranoid, thinking was that someone's footsteps or was it my teammates? Juggernaut music, disabled because it's pointless. Hit marker sound effects. So this setting might seem trivial to most people. However, I think it's fantastic to get an audio cue once you land your shots. With that in mind, my preferred sound is the classic sound. Voice chat. I have mine set to mute everyone except party, and that's because I've heard things. Terrible, terrible things. Open mic recording threshold. I've left this at the default value because, to be completely transparent with you, I have no idea what it does. Voice chat volume and microphone volume both set to 100, so that both myself and my team can hear each other's perfect dulcet tones. Voice chat effect. This is set to no effect, otherwise you won't be able to understand what your team is saying. War tracks as a passenger. I have this set to disabled, mainly because my team love playing them and I hate hearing them. And because they know I hate hearing them, they love to play them even more. So, that concludes all of my settings as a console player. Now, if you'd like to stick around for the short story time, you're more than welcome. However, if you've got everything you need, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for watching. Okay, so DualShock 4 Disaster Story Time. It starts out as a normal night playing Warzone. I'm slide cancelling away, enjoying tactical sprinting. Well, at least I was until my tactical sprinting became very hit and miss, and that's when I realised something was wrong with my controller. My L3 button had stopped working, at least 50% stopped working. So, because I'm a cheapskate and I only have one controller, I decided to take the matter into my own hands. I did the unthinkable and attempted a DIY job, which, as expected, made it so much worse. I'm about to show you unsettling photos of my original DualShock 4 as it's in a very bad state. Look at the poor thing, it didn't deserve this. But, unfortunately, the story gets worse. As I try and secure a new DualShock 4 controller, I didn't realise they were out of stock across the UK. This unfortunate timing led to me purchasing a second-hand DualShock controller, which I'm sure you can already imagine how well that went. I received the controller, excited to play again, and I plug it in for one game, just to discover it's got a chronic case of stick drift, and keeps dragging my character to the left, which, to be honest, isn't ideal. Thankfully, as uploading this video, I have a new controller. However, that still wasn't a perfect process, as I had to buy it bundled with FIFA 21, which isn't ideal, but at least I'm back in the game now. And that concludes story time. So, I'd like to thank you for watching, and I'll catch you on the next one.